43% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency with savings right now. That number comes from a U.S. News survey conducted in January 2026, and it means that nearly half the country is one car repair, one medical bill, one broken appliance, one unexpected expense of any kind, away from a financial crisis that they have no buffer to absorb. The median emergency fund balance in America just dropped by half in a single year, from $10,000 to $5,000. One-third of Americans say they do not have enough savings to cover even 1 month of living expenses. And Empower, one of the largest retirement platforms in the country, found that the median emergency savings for all Americans is $600. $600. That is less than 1 month's car payment. That is less than 1 week's rent in most major cities. That is the distance between stability and catastrophe for the average American household. And Bankrate's 2026 Financial Outlook survey found that 32% of Americans expect their personal finances to get worse this year, the highest level of pessimism in at least 8 years. And Allianz Life found that 48% of Americans feel more financially stressed entering 2026 than they did entering 2025. The top reasons were high daily expenses at 54%, low income at 46%, lack of emergency funds at 39%, increasing debt at 35%, high healthcare costs at 34%, and little job security at 33%. Every single one of those stress factors is about to get worse. Not because I am predicting it, because the mechanisms that will make them worse are already locked in and moving through the pipeline. And the people who do not prepare, the people who assume this is a rough patch that will correct itself, the people who are waiting for someone in charge to fix it, those people are going to lose their savings, their homes, their retirement security, and in some cases, everything they have spent their entire adult life building. This is not a warning about something that might happen. This is a timeline of what is already in motion and a guide for what you can still do about it if you act now. Your savings will be eaten by inflation that has not peaked yet, and most people do not realize it. Most Americans believe inflation peaked at 9.1% in June 2022 and has been coming down ever since. That is technically true based on the Consumer Price Index. But here is what the CPI does not tell you. Prices did not come down. The rate at which they were going up slowed down. That is what falling inflation means. It does not mean things got cheaper. It means things got expensive, slightly less fast. And the cumulative damage of 4 years of elevated inflation has been devastating. Prices are roughly 25% higher than they were in 2020 across the board. And the median household income, adjusted for inflation, is not statistically different from what it was in 2019 according to census data. Your income is flat. Your costs are up 25%. That is a 25% pay cut disguised as inflation. And now the war in Iran is reigniting the price pressures that were supposedly fading. Goldman Sachs revised its inflation forecast upward to 3.1%. Gregory Dacko, the chief economist at EY Parthenon, estimated that inflation in March 2026 could increase by nearly 1% above the 2.4% recorded in February. And Oxford Economics modeled a scenario where global inflation hits 7.7% if the Hormuz disruption continues into the second half of 2026. And the things that are getting more expensive are not luxury goods. They are the things you cannot stop buying. Gas is at $4.08. Diesel is at $5.40. Groceries are up 24% from pre-pandemic. Health insurance premiums jumped 26% on the ACA marketplace and 6.5 to 9% for employer plans. Car insurance has surged 46% in 2 years. The average monthly car payment is $742. The average monthly mortgage payment is $2,205. Electric bills are up 40 to 100% in many states. And none of those increases are temporary. The Roosevelt Institute specifically noted that household energy costs rarely fall once they rise, because the structural drivers, AI data center demand, natural gas export capacity, aging grid infrastructure, are all permanent. Every month that passes with your income flat and your costs rising is a month where your real wealth, your actual purchasing power, shrinks. If you have $5,000 in savings and inflation is running at 3 to 4%, your savings lose $150 to $200 in real value every single year without you spending a dime. If you have $50,000 in a retirement account earning 5% while inflation is at 4%, your real return is 1%. At that rate, it takes 72 years to double your money. That is not retirement savings. That is a rounding error. And the people who are not accounting for inflation's ongoing erosion of their savings are going to arrive at retirement with a number that looked adequate on paper, but buys a fraction of what they expected it to buy. Let me give you a concrete example that will make this real. If you are 50 years old right now and you have $100,000 in a retirement account, earning an average of 6% annually, and inflation averages 3.5% for the next 15 years, your account will show a balance of approximately $240,000 when you are 65. That sounds like growth, but in real purchasing power, adjusted for inflation, that $240,000 will buy what $143,000 buys today. You lost nearly $100,000 in purchasing power while watching your balance go up. The number on the screen told you everything was fine while inflation was quietly consuming almost half your real wealth. And that is the optimistic scenario. If inflation runs at 4.5%, which is what Oxford Economics projected could happen if the Hormuz disruption continues, your $240,000 buys what $122,000 buys today. You have been saving for 15 years and you end up with less purchasing power than you started with. That is not a recession taking your money. That is inflation silently transferring your wealth from your future self to the present-day cost structure of an economy that was repriced while you were not watching. And for the 43% of Americans who cannot cover a $1,000 emergency right now, inflation is not eroding their savings, it is eroding their survival. Because when prices go up 3 to 4% and wages go up 1 to 2%, every month you fall a little further behind. And falling behind at $80,000 a year is not a lifestyle inconvenience. It is a mathematical inevitability that ends in debt, default, and the loss of everything you have been trying to hold together. Your job is not safe, and the replacement is already being trained. This is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear, but I think it needs to be said because the people who hear it and act on it are the ones who will survive what is coming. Your job, whatever it is less secure right now than it has been at any point in your career. And it is not because of the economy alone, it is because of a technological transformation that is happening faster than any labor market transition in human history. In March 2026, artificial intelligence was the #1 cited reason for job eliminations for the first time ever, accounting for 25% of all announced layoffs. Goldman Sachs estimates AI is displacing roughly 16,000 American jobs every single month. The tech sector unemployment rate has climbed to 5.8%, the highest since the dot-com bust. The underemployment rate for recent college graduates hit 42.5% at the end of 2025, meaning nearly half of people with degrees cannot find a job that matches their education. And the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey found that Americans are more afraid of losing their job right now than at any point in over 2 decades, with only 3 months in 25 years of data showing higher fear. The New York Fed reported that consumers have become much more worried about missing debt payments in recent months. And the Roosevelt Institute found that the unemployment rate for 20 to 24-year-olds has risen 1.2 percentage points from a year ago, while prime-age worker unemployment is unchanged, suggesting that younger workers are being hit first and hardest by the combination of AI displacement and the frozen hiring environment. And here is what you need to understand about AI displacement that makes it different from every previous wave of automation. Previous waves hit blue-collar jobs, assembly lines, manufacturing, repetitive physical labor. The advice was always go to college, get a degree, get a white-collar job, and you will be safe. AI is doing the opposite. It is hitting white-collar jobs first. Customer service, data analysis, programming, legal research, financial analysis, content creation, marketing, the exact jobs that required the degrees that cost $94,000 in student debt. McKinsey estimated that up to 30% of hours worked globally could be automated by 2030. That is 3.5 years from now. And the job market is not absorbing the displaced workers because the hiring rate has been declining for 3 consecutive months, according to the Chicago Fed. Companies are not replacing the people they are letting go. They are replacing them with software. And if you are sitting in a position right now thinking your job is safe because you are good at it, because you have been there a long time, because your boss likes you, because your company is stable, I need you to consider one question. Is there an AI tool that could do 70% of your daily tasks for 1% of your annual salary? Because if the answer is yes, and for most white-collar workers in America right now the answer is yes, then the only question is when, not whether. And when is arriving faster than anyone predicted. Your retirement is being devoured from both ends, and the math does not lie. The retirement crisis in America is not approaching, it is here. And most people do not realize how deep the hole actually is because they have been looking at a number in their 401k statement without understanding what that number can actually buy when the time comes. The median 401k balance for someone at age 65 is $95,000. After taxes, penalties, and withdrawal structures, that is closer to $70,000 in spendable money. Divide that by 20 years of retirement, and you get $3,500 a year, $292 a month. That is supposed to supplement Social Security, which pays an average of $1,907 per month for a retired worker, for a combined monthly income of roughly $2,200. The average rent in America is $2,100, which means a typical retiree's entire monthly income from Social Security and 401k combined is approximately enough to cover rent and nothing else. Not food, not medicine, not utilities, not transportation, not insurance, just rent. And the 401k system is being rated at record rates while balances are insufficient. Vanguard reported that 6% of participants made hardship withdrawals in 2025, 3 times the pre-pandemic average. The top reason was avoiding eviction. Dayforce found that 1 in 4 workers reduced their retirement contributions last year, and 20% took 401k loans, the highest share ever tracked. CBS News called this a warning sign, and the vice president of the Financial Health Network said it speaks to the affordability crisis for middle-income earners. Half of Americans told Allianz Life they are more financially stressed heading into 2026, and nearly a third reported decreased confidence in their ability to hit their retirement goals this year. But the retirement crisis has a second jaw that most people are not seeing. Social Security's trust fund is projected to be depleted by 2033. When that happens, benefits face an automatic 23% cut. For that retiree making $1,907 per month, that is a loss of $438 every single month. Their income drops to $1,469 plus the $292 from their 401k for a total of $1,761 per month. Against a national average rent of $2,100, they are now $339 short of rent before they pay for a single meal, a single medication, a single gallon of gas. And the people who are not preparing for this right now, the people who are assuming Social Security will be there at full benefits, and their 401k will be enough, and the cost of living will stabilize, those people are walking into a wall that they will hit at the exact age when they have the least ability to recover from it. Because at 67 or 70, you do not start over, you do not retrain, you do not pivot, you endure whatever financial position you arrive at, and right now, the position most Americans are arriving at is not survivable without intervention that nobody is providing. Your home equity is the last asset you have, and it is more vulnerable than you think. For most American families, their home is their single largest asset. It is not their 401k. It is not their savings account. It is the equity in their house, and most people treat that equity as a certainty. They look at their Zillow estimate, and they think that number is money in the bank. But home equity is not cash. It is a market valuation that can change dramatically based on forces that are completely outside your control. And several of those forces are converging right now in ways that should concern every homeowner in America. The first is interest rates. Mortgage rates are above 6.5%, and the Fed has signaled that cuts may not come until September at the earliest. Every month that rates stay elevated, the pool of potential buyers for your home shrinks. Fewer qualified buyers means less competition. Less competition means downward pressure on prices. And if you are in a position where you need to sell, whether because of a job loss, a medical emergency, a divorce, or a relocation, you are selling into a market with constrained demand. The second is insurance. Homeowners' insurance premiums in disaster-prone states have surged over 20%. In Florida, California, and Gulf Coast states, carriers are pulling out of entire zip codes, leaving homeowners scrambling for coverage through state-backed last resort plans that offer less protection at higher prices. If you cannot insure your home, you cannot have a mortgage. And if you cannot have a mortgage, you cannot sell your home to anyone who needs financing, which is the vast majority of buyers. The third is the property tax squeeze. Municipalities facing their own budget pressures are raising property taxes to close gaps left by declining commercial real estate revenue and reduced federal funding. That raises your carrying cost of homeownership while simultaneously reducing your net equity. The fourth is the commercial real estate contagion. When commercial properties default and regional banks take losses, those banks tighten lending across the board, including residential mortgages. Fewer loans mean fewer buyers mean lower prices, and lower prices mean the equity number you have been counting on starts shrinking. And the fifth is the most insidious. The concentration of household wealth in home equity means that for most middle-class Americans, a significant decline in home values does not just reduce their net worth, it eliminates it. Research has shown that nearly 4 in 5 middle-class families do not have sufficient non-housing assets to cover 3/4 of essential living expenses for even 3 months, if their income disappears. Their home is not just their biggest asset, it is their only asset. And they are one sustained housing correction away from having nothing. And the insurance crisis is making this worse in real time. In Florida, State Farm and other major carriers have pulled out of hundreds of thousands of policies. In California, the wildfire risk has caused multiple insurers to stop writing new policies in fire-prone areas. Homeowners who lose their insurance cannot maintain their mortgage because lenders require insurance as a condition of the loan. And homeowners who cannot maintain their mortgage face foreclosure. And homeowners who face foreclosure lose the only significant asset they have. It is a chain of domino tiles that starts with an insurance company's risk assessment and ends with a family losing their home. And it is happening right now in communities across the country, while the national conversation is focused on gas prices and grocery bills. Your home equity feels solid until the day it is not. And the day it is not can arrive without warning from a direction you never considered. The people who will lose everything share 5 characteristics, and you need to check yourself against every one of them. After months of covering these interconnected crises, I have identified a pattern. The people who are most at risk of losing everything in what is coming share 5 specific characteristics, and I want you to check yourself against each one, because if you recognize yourself in 3 or more of these, you are in the danger zone and you need to act immediately. The first is carrying high-interest debt with no payoff plan. If you have credit card balances at 20 to 24% interest, auto loans at 8 to 10%, or personal loans with variable rates, you are bleeding money every single month that could be going toward a safety net. Credit card debt in America is at $1.28 trillion, and 73% of it is from essential spending. The average balance is $6,715 per consumer, and it is growing. Every month you carry that balance, the interest compounds and your total obligation increases even if you are not charging anything new. And if you lose your income, those minimum payments do not stop. They accelerate through late fees and penalty rates. The second is having no liquid emergency reserves. If you cannot cover 3 months of essential expenses without selling an asset, borrowing money, or raiding retirement, you are one event away from a cascading financial collapse. 43% of Americans are in this position right now, and the median emergency fund has fallen to $5,000 nationally and $600 by some measures. The third is having all your wealth concentrated in a single asset, typically your home. If your net worth is entirely or almost entirely in your home equity, you are one housing correction away from being worth nothing on paper. And as I just described, the forces that could trigger that correction are already in motion. The fourth is being in a job that is vulnerable to AI replacement without a backup skill set. If your daily work consists primarily of information processing, data management, customer communication, content creation, scheduling, basic analysis, or any routine cognitive task, you are in the crosshairs of the fastest displacement wave in economic history. And the fifth is psychological. It is the belief that things will go back to normal, that the gas prices will come down, that the grocery bills will stabilize, that the housing market will correct in your favor, that Social Security will be there at full benefits, that someone in charge will intervene before it gets too bad. That belief is the most dangerous financial position in America right now because it prevents preparation, and preparation is the only thing that separates the people who come through what is ahead from the people who do not. Let me be specific about what losing everything actually looks like for a middle-class American family in 2026, because I think people hear that phrase and think it is hyperbole. It is not. Losing everything looks like a family where one parent loses their job due to AI-related restructuring. They had a household income of $110,000, and now it is $55,000. Their mortgage is $2,205. Their car payments are $1,200 combined. Their health insurance, which was through the employer, who just laid off the spouse, now costs $1,400 a month on Cobra, or they can go to the ACA marketplace where premiums just went up 26%. They have $4,000 in emergency savings and $8,000 in credit card debt at 22%. Within 3 months, the savings are gone. Within 6 months, they are behind on the mortgage. Within 9 months, foreclosure proceedings begin. Within a year, they have lost the house, which was their only significant asset, and their credit score has been destroyed for 7 years. And the entire cascade was triggered by a single job loss in a family that was by every external measure solidly middle class. That is what losing everything looks like. It is not dramatic. It is not cinematic. It is administrative. It is paperwork. It is automated phone calls. It is letters from banks. And it is happening right now to families across this country who were fine 12 months ago and are not fine anymore. The preparation plan that could save your family, and it starts this week. I am going to give you the most actionable, specific, concrete plan I have ever laid out on this channel. Not principles, not mindset advice, not vague suggestions to be more careful with money. Specific steps you can take this week that will materially improve your family's odds of surviving the next 12 months without losing what you have built. Step 1. This weekend, pull every bank statement, credit card statement, and bill from the last 90 days and create a single document that shows your actual monthly cash flow. Not what you think you spend, what you actually spend. Every subscription, every recurring charge, every automatic payment. I guarantee you will find at least $100 to $200 per month in charges you forgot about, services you do not use, insurance policies that can be renegotiated, and fees that can be eliminated. That $200 per month is $2,400 per year. That is almost half the median emergency fund balance in America. Found money. Step 2. Starting this month, redirect every dollar you free up into a separate high-yield savings account that you do not touch for any reason other than a genuine emergency. Not a vacation fund, not a holiday fund, an emergency fund. And if you have nothing to redirect, start with $25 a week. That is $1,300 in a year. That is the difference between absorbing a car repair and putting it on a credit card at 22%. Step 3. If you are carrying credit card debt, call every card company this week and ask for a hardship rate reduction. Many of them will lower your rate temporarily, especially if you have been a long-term customer with a history of on-time payments. If they refuse, look into balance transfer offers from other cards. Even moving from 22% to 12% on a $5,000 balance saves you $500 a year in interest. Step 4. Stock your pantry strategically over the next 60 days. Not in a panic, not in bulk. Every time you go to the grocery store, buy 1 or 2 extra items that you already eat and that have a long shelf life. Canned goods, dried beans, rice, pasta, cooking oil, peanut butter, oats. If food prices increase 15 to 20% this fall, as the fertilizer crisis hits the harvest, every dollar you spent on food in April is worth 15 to 20 cents more than every dollar you spend on food in October. That is a guaranteed return that beats any savings account in the country. Step 5. Identify one skill that is not automatable and begin developing it. Trades like plumbing, electrical, HVAC, healthcare skills like nursing, medical technology, patient care, repair and maintenance skills, negotiation, sales, community organizing, anything that requires physical presence, human judgment, emotional intelligence, or trust-based relationships. AI cannot replace a plumber. AI cannot replace a nurse. AI cannot replace the person your neighbor calls when they need help and do not know who else to ask. Step 6. Have the conversation. Sit down with your spouse, your partner, your adult children, your parents. Put the real numbers on the table. What is our income? What is our debt? What is our emergency reserve? What happens if one of us loses our job? What happens if gas hits $6? What happens if groceries go up another 15%? What is our plan? Families that communicate about money survive financial crises. Families that avoid the conversation get blindsided by them. And step 7. Know your neighbors. Introduce yourself if you have not. Help someone without being asked. Build the relationships now that you may need later. Because throughout every major economic disruption in history, the communities that survived were not the richest. They were the most connected. The families who had people they could call. People who would show up with a meal, a ride, a tool, a conversation, a presence. That social infrastructure is more valuable than any financial instrument in a crisis. And it costs nothing to build except effort and sincerity. I want to end by saying something that I think is important for everyone watching this. I am not making this video because I want you to be afraid. I am making this video because I want you to be ready. There is a difference between fear and preparation. Fear paralyzes you. Preparation empowers you. And right now, the people who are going to lose the most are the ones who are paralyzed by the belief that there is nothing they can do. There is something you can do. The question is whether you will do them this week or whether you will wait until the second wave of this crisis arrives and the options are fewer and the costs are higher and the margin for error has disappeared entirely. The people who prepared before 2008 were not geniuses. They were not prophets. They were people who looked at the data, felt the discomfort of what it was telling them, and acted instead of hoping. That is all I am asking you to do. Look at the data, feel the discomfort, and act, Because the window of preparation is open right now. It will not be open forever. And the difference between losing everything and keeping what matters is not luck. It is timing. And the timing is now. Share this video with someone who needs a plan, not a warning. A plan. Because we have done enough warning on this channel, it is time for action. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week I am going to be tracking these timelines and giving you updates on what has changed, what has accelerated, and what you need to adjust. No spin, no agenda, no fear-mongering. Just the data, the plan, and the truth. Because the difference between losing everything and keeping what matters is not intelligence. It is not income. It is not connections. It is preparation. And preparation is a choice you make before the storm arrives, not during, not after. Before, and before is right now. Take care of yourselves out there, protect your families, strengthen your circle, and I will see you in the next one.